Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, and the end of what's been a really fun experience. Over the course of 4 weeks I've gone shopping, and I've gone shopping armed with 500 Rand and set off to see what our 4 big supermarket chains have to offer when it comes to buying wine. I've arrived with 500 Rand in my pocket at each one of them, and I've tried to find 2 inexpensive wines and then 2 more higher end wines across the red and white spectrum just to see what's on offer. And it's been an enlightening experience to see what's on our shelves, what you can get. And although a lot of the stuff is the big names and the expected wines, occasionally I've found some very different wines and made some pretty cool discoveries. So it's been a lot of fun, and we wrap up on, I think, a pretty high note. Wine from Woolworths. There's a terrific selection at Woolworths, a lot of international wine, but also some really good South African stuff. And I think we have 4 examples this week. Starting with wine from an estate that makes some outstanding Cabernet Franc. There's nobody really who makes Cabernet Franc quite as well as the guys out at Raats. But they also make some really nice Chenin Blanc. And this is down the bottom end of their Chenin Blanc range. It is the Granite Blocks range. Now, Raats has made some exceptional wine. If you've ever tried his MR Compostela range, that's a joint venture that makes some exceptional wine, you'll know he really does know what he's doing when he's making wine. This Shannon, very much an entry level, but still a wine that I think promises to be something very nice indeed. As the name suggests, granite plays a particular influence in the nature of this wine. A good clean terroir base. Raats and his team see it as having a major influence on this Shannon that they produced. A Shannon that's only £59.95 if you buy it at Woolworths, and I suspect that's going to make for a rather good purchase. And there's a crispness to that, a slight edginess to it. It's a really nice Chenin Blanc, and I'll say it time and again, it's a wine we don't celebrate enough. And here's another reason why we need to give Chenin more of a chance. It's the grape we grow the most of in South Africa, so we might as well drink more of it, particularly when it is made well. This is a nice, fresh mouthful of white wine. Drink it on its own, drink it with food. Either way, it's something that's going to go really, really nicely. And at £59.95 a bottle, it certainly is a most affordable way of trying some very good Chenin Blanc. Now, the 16 bottles of wine that I've purchased over my 4-week experiment at the supermarkets of South Africa, this was the most expensive, £199.95 for a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. Now, that's an awful lot of money for any wine, let alone a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, but it comes from an estate, Graham Beck, that does have a history of making some exceptional wine. Best known certainly for their bubbles celebrated at Barack Obama's inauguration dinner, amongst others. But they've also made some really nice still wine, a red blend called the William that we drank a lot of. My grandfather, it was William, and so we drank in celebration of him. The Joshua, another red blend I really enjoyed. Sadly, they're not making any of those stills anymore. They're just focusing on their Cap Classique, which means a bottle like this is a bottle to buy and to savour because it is the last of a breed, sadly, because I've always liked the wine that they have made. Now, there were more expensive red wines I could have bought, but in terms of my 500 Rand budget, this worked out and said £199.95, the single most expensive bottle out of the 4 weeks. Does it live up to the billing? Now, historically, Graham Beck has had 2 spots, one in Franschhoek, one out in Robertson. These are grapes from the Robertson area, so suggesting a slightly drier white wine is on the cards. And the Pheasant's run comes with a big price tag. Can it live up to the name? It is a lovely wine. There's a very light smokiness to what is otherwise a very recognisable Sauvignon Blanc feel, the citrus, the zest, the fruit to it, but there's also a fullness to it, the kind of white wine mouthful that you might normally expect from something a little bigger like a Chardonnay, but without losing those Sauvignon Blanc characteristics. It's a big Sauvignon Blanc, and the kind of Sauvignon Blanc that I'd love to keep for another 5-10 years. In fact, if I can find some, I might put some away in the cellar. Although the amount I put away will be limited by the fact that at just shy of 200 Rand a bottle, it's not the cheapest white wine you're coming across. I still think it's a good buy though, not just because it's a really nice wine, but also for a touch of posterity, because sadly, this might be the very last time you see a bottle of the Pheasant's Run. On to the reds, and this was a challenge because there's a lot of red wine at Woolworths in that 70, 80, 90 rand category that's good value, good quality, and deciding what to choose wasn't easy. In the end, I went for the Bellevue, 79 rand 95 a bottle, for its sense of history. As far as I know, Bellevue has the oldest planted Pinotage blocks in South Africa. The first Pinotage emerged out of a lab from a mad scientist in the 1920s, but the oldest blocks are here at Bellevue. We haven't had a Pinotage on the show for a while, so why not give this one a go? Two other reasons for selecting this wine. There's a great story about two brothers. One of them went on to become the winemaker here at Bellevue, the other became a dominee, so each pursuing heavenly endeavours one way or the other. The other reason is that this is a 2013, and one thing I struggled with at Woolworths was to find wine that was a little bit older. Lots of 2016, lots of 2015, not that much beyond that. And I like wine that's just had a little bit more time to find itself and develop a little bit of character. So 2013 Pinotage from Bellevue. It's an estate with lots of history, in particular a history of Pinotage. And that's surprisingly good. Not that I didn't think it would be nice, but it really does have something to it. A proudly South African grape that's got those chocolate coffee undertones that we know from Pinotage, but also that smoothness that throws back to its roots in Pinot Noir. That's actually a very, very pleasant wine indeed. Bellevue has a history. They've been making Pinotage for a long time. They clearly know what they're doing, and it reflects here. At a touch under 80 rand a bottle, I think that's a very good Pinotage indeed. And to our final Woolworths wine, our final shopping experience wine. And I think this is a pretty good note to finish on. Shannon is found in Elgin. In the past, a lot of the grapes sold on, but now making a lot of their own wine and making their wine with great success. The Mount Bullitt label is one to look out for. This is the 2014 Merlot. It came in at 149 rand 95 a bottle, so certainly not the most expensive bottle of red wine you'll find, but it is from Elgin, which at the moment to me says good winemaking country. Shannon is an estate with a great name, and I think this could be a lovely way to finish off our experiment. So if Elgin and Shannon weren't reasons enough to try this out, then the winemaker seals the deal. Catherine Marshall is one of the young rock stars of South African winemaking, and if she's involved in this, then I have no hesitation in trying it at all. And it's also a chance for me to find a Merlot that we can celebrate, because Merlot is so much more than the wine it's normally given credit for. And what Catherine and Shannon have doubtless done in partnership with Woolworths is something that flies that Merlot flag nice and high. And indeed they have. There's almost that sort of Ribena feel to it, that nice raspberry touch that just drifts across the palate. It's a really smooth wine. There's a lot of richness to it. It's a nice big wine for a Merlot. There's a lot of density to it. And I think it's just a really nice celebration of what they're doing out in Elgin. We look at their Pinot Noir, we look at the Chardonnay. Beyond that, the varietals maybe don't get as much credit as they sometimes deserve. We can see in this case that Merlot in Elgin is also doing a very nice job indeed. Now, this was on the button. I gave myself 500 rand to spend across the board. I came very short when I went to Checkers. I was a touch over at Pick n Pay, and I was 40 rand odd short on what I could have spent when I spent time at Spar. This came in at 499 rand and 80 cents, so 20 cents left to play with. That is as close as I am likely to get. And a terrific selection to wrap things up. Raats and his Sauvignon Blanc, the last of the Pheasant's Run from Graham Beck, a Bellevue Pinotage that throws back to a long history of making South Africa's very own grape, and then this, the Shannon Merlot. But what it's done across the board, from Checkers, through Pick and Pay, through Spar, to here at Woolworths, is showing that we have some supermarkets that are delivering some terrific wine and showcasing just what South Africa has to offer. Yes, the best way to get your wine is to go down to the estates themselves, to meet the people there, to taste them all. But if you can't get there, and it's certainly not always possible, then know that our supermarkets are a very good alternative instead. Cheers.